bringing life to my Houston Texans. You know what I'm saying? We lost J.J. Watt for the year. The fact that he's one of the MVP candidates, I'm very pleased. Nice jump, man. We approve.
True story. His
Even
college coach said passing on him would be like passing on Michael Jordan.
Oh, look at that. Not only with the NBA knowledge, Kevin Arnovitz brings the football scouting also. Welcome to The Jump. I'm Rachel Nichols alongside our previously aforementioned NBA writer and Top Chef connoisseur. He has a podcast. You should listen to it, Kevin Arnovitz. WNBA All-Star Chiney Ogwumike. And we have the goods today. Coming up, the Warriors continue their injury-plagued slide to the lottery. But is their plight avoidable or inevitable? First, though, so I keep thinking about the hours we all spent discussing the crazy moves we expected for the NBA's summer of 2019. Would KD really leave the Warriors? What was going to happen to Anthony Davis? The truth is, you could have given me exactly 1 million cracks at predicting how things would shake out, and I still wouldn't have gotten to. And of course, we'll see Dwight Howard back in a Lakers uniform. And yet, here we are, with Dwight indeed back wearing purple and gold. And just in case you wanted to go full-on hot tub time machine, last night we even got Snoop Dogg sitting courtside for the Lakers game in San Antonio. Can we take a moment, please, to appreciate Snoop going on the Lakers broadcast for a little gin and juice play-by-play? Listen to this.
LeBron just taking over the
Give me
game
that.
now.
Come on, Brian, walk into the park. That's a walk in the park right there. We call that cake mix. We coasting right now, though. I like what we're doing right now. Let's keep the pressure on. Let's go. Push that, LBJ. Run that point. PG. Get out there, Bradley. Get out there. Give it back to him. Oh, threes, please.
Smooth as ever.
More.
Now, at that point in the game, LA had a comfortable lead, but the Spurs hung tough, requiring a big fourth quarter from, Dwight Howard. Dwight was a monster exactly when the Lakers needed it. Watch these dunks. The entire state of Texas shook on that one. And then here, Bradley misses, but Dwight flies in for the cleanup. Dwight was essential on the defensive end, too. Here's a key block on DeJounte Murray down the stretch. The Lakers really needed that one. And by the time it was over, LA had the win. It was their fifth in a row, while Dwight had 14 points, 13 rebounds. And this was his shot chart. Yep. A perfect 7 for 7, which means he is now shooting nearly 80% for the season. Of course, that's easier to do when you're only shooting 4 times a game, but it's still not easy, and I know this because no one else is doing it. Frankly, just as notable as how accurate Dwight has been is that he's getting his opportunities in the flow of the game, as opposed to demanding the kind of post touches that clogged up his other recent stops. It's almost as if the past 5 years never happened. Although, of course, they did. And acknowledging how poorly things went in Charlotte, in Atlanta, in Washington, D.C. is important because it makes the contrast to what's happening now even more remarkable. Remember what Wizards GM Tommy Shepard said after unloading Howard to the Grizzlies just a few months ago? He told our Adrian Wojnarowski, quote, "That was the quickest trade I have ever done in my life." Memphis, too, was happy to get rid of Dwight via buyout, but that's what allowed Howard to step in for the Lakers after DeMarcus Cousins went down. At the time, he was saying all the right things about being willing to play his role, but since he'd said all that before and then hadn't followed through, it was hard to know whether to believe him. But now, now Howard is saying things like, quote, "I don't see it as a role, I see it as my purpose." All those locker room cancer stories also seem to be a thing of the past. LeBron keeps talking about what a good teammate he is. And my God, Shaq is even praising Dwight on IG. Yep, here is Shaquille O'Neal actually referring to Dwight as Superman and writing, "You playing great, bro. Keep it up. Proud of you." I may need a minute. This is all such a departure from our recent reality. It is fair to wonder whether it's sustainable. Will Dwight be able to do this for a full season? He turns 34 in a few weeks. Will he stay healthy enough to do it all season, even if he wants to? There are no guarantees, but at least for now, the Lakers are reaping the benefits. Dwight has the NBA's second best plus-minus, 5th in the league in block shots, a key reason the team's overall defensive rating tops the NBA. He's also keeping the Lakers from having to overuse AD at center, which will be huge for them long term. All those hours talking about the moves that would matter this summer, and I guess the only sure thing is that there's no sure thing, and sometimes the least predictable stories are the best stories of all. Chiney, Dwight now has 2 double-doubles off the bench already. Is this sustainable? What do you see going forward?
I absolutely think it's sustainable, and it's really interesting because we hear the Shaq comparisons, dominant post player wearing a Lakers uniform, and I think the comparison that most people make is the fact that like we judge Shaq for his work off the court, but also on the court as well. We merge those two worlds together, and I think we do the same with Dwight. How serious is he about basketball? You know, he's always been the showman. People compared him to Shaq in his personality, but now he has no choice but to have focus because he's on a non-guaranteed contract. That's one thing people forget. How often do we say that a future Hall of Famer is on a non-guaranteed contract? And what people don't realize is that like he's been on 5 teams in 5 years. So what's the differentiating factor why he's having success? 1, he's coming off the bench. And 2, he's surrounded by veterans and proven winners, people that he is forced to respect. LeBron, even Rondo, championship pedigree, even Danny Green, championship pedigree. So like, if you look at Dwight, he has no choice but to play that role. And I'm glad that he has a purpose because I think a lot of people have questioned his purpose based on his personality, and we get that history from Shaq days.
Right, and number 3 would be necessity is the mother of invention, right? And look, I think it's absolutely sustainable. I agree with Shanae in this sense. If Dwight Howard is okay, getting 4 post-ups over a 6-game stretch, it's going to be fine. If my purpose, as he says, is I'm going to take ownership 20 minutes a night of one of the top-ranked defensive units in basketball. He has a 90 defensive rating right now. He's going to be just fine. I mean, he's always had the power to do this.
Yep.
I mean, and I agree with Shanae. I don't think it's a coincidence that the teammates in the surrounding principals.
I think that's really
that's the point.
Right.
Is on a young Atlanta team, on a young Charlotte team, Kemba and pretty much a couple vets. But I mean, this. Necessity is the mother of invention, and I do think people are a product of their environment. And the environment this almost reminds me, remember LeBron when J.R. Smith came to town in Cleveland, and everybody said, well, how are you going to deal with a guy who's been, I've got this.
He's on his best behavior.
Right, LeBron's got this, right? And I think that it does have a way of persuading people to sort of accept their role.
Yeah, absolutely. And remember, this is a 3 times in a row Defensive Player of the Year. And the Lakers defense continuing to shine last night, keeping the Spurs under 40% shooting, blocking 10 shots, sitting atop the league in defensive rating this season. LeBron continuing to preach defense post-game. Take a listen to him.
I mean, defense that's our staple. We've been talking about it and we believe it. No matter how it's going for us offensively, if we're struggling to shoot the ball, if we're struggling, if we turn the ball over, whatever, we have to still continue to get stops, and we did that tonight, in a very hostile environment, an environment that's very tough to win in, I know from experience. So it's a very good win for us early in the season.
So Kevin, Frank Vogel came in from day 1 of training camp preaching defense. We know that he had great defenses in Indiana. But we heard the Lakers preaching defense at the beginning of last season, and they just didn't have the personnel to do it. Are you surprised they've been able to pull it off this season with the changes in personnel they've had?
Yes and no in this sense. I mean, I think that we all knew that the margin for the Lakers this season would be, is this going to be a LeBron Cleveland era defense where, hey, pay no attention to what you're seeing during the regular season because on April 12th we'll tune it up and we have the pieces? Or is this going to be a team that really actually takes advantage of some really good defensive personnel? Let us not forget, Anthony Davis is a top 5 individual versatile NBA defender. Danny Green is the best transition defender at guard, probably a top 5 at his position. Avery Bradley, analytics people will debate whether he's merely pretty good or great.
Which side of the Avery Bradley camp are you on?
At the very least, he's pretty good.
Yes.
Dwight Howard, as aforementioned, Defensive Player of the Year multiple times. They have a rim protector on the floor at all times. And when LeBron James is engaged, he is as versatile and determined and as smart a defender as there is. So I think they've had the personnel to do this. The question was, are we going to make it a cornerstone of our identity, or is it going to be wake us in April?
Yeah, and specifically on the floor, the Lakers defense is better largely because they're bigger. When you're bigger and you have those helicopters in the paint, as you listed the guys, AD, Dwight, even LeBron, JaVale McGee in there protecting the rim, they're better, which allows those guards to be more aggressive on ball on the perimeter. The Lakers also have the #1 pick and roll defense in the NBA. And why is that? That's because when your guards are more aggressive on the perimeter and you know the help side's behind you, you know you're straight. I think the question here was like, okay, from the get-go, will the Lakers actually make defense their identity? And it seems like that's the culture that they're creating.
Well, there was a bunch of things that could have gone either way. right? So the Dwight Howard question, would he play ball offensively enough that you could keep him on the floor to use him the way you wanted to defensively? It's not just that he gets great blocks. We saw some highlights there. He's a smart defender. Yep. He knows where to be on the floor, and that he's been able to stay in the game and do that has been great for them. Avery Bradley, as you know, people argue over Avery Bradley as he's really good at some of his team defense stats, would put him in. I think Avery Bradley's a fit guy, right? We've seen him in a great fit in Boston, not so great fit in a couple other places. He clearly is fitting in well with this team. LeBron, clearly you can tell from those quotes there and some of the other things he said, he is relishing the fact that he is playing strong defense and showing people, he said, you're not going to be able to point me out on film. I do wonder with LeBron, is it smart for him to be playing such involved defense right now? What do you think, Kevin? Because he is turning 35 in December. They need him to be playing good defense in the playoffs. And I kept saying about him in these past couple seasons, guys, you can't have it both ways. You can't have him want him to exert himself during the regular season and be disappointed if he doesn't have enough left in the tank for the spring. Do you think that he can keep this up all season and be who he wants to be in the playoffs?
In this respect, I think there is a long spectrum between, hey, play every possession like you're Marcus Smart and be completely oblivious off the ball to the point of indifference. Right? Like you can actually play a pretty good brand of defense if by merely being attentive and smart and kind of making decent cost-benefit analysis decisions when you're off the ball.
Exactly.
And like he kind of hasn't really been doing that the last few years.
By having those helicopters in the paint, LeBron is playing the defense he wants to play, not that Patrick Beverley full court pressure defense. He's playing free safety, roaming, getting steals, and that's the best form of defense LeBron wants to play.
Absolutely, and keeps him fresh still for the time of year he cares about the most. Coming up, the Rockets' defensive performance on Sunday in Miami. Not what you'd want it to be. Mike D'Antoni called his team soft. Will they respond to that? First, though, it's time for our distant replay from this date in 1995. I'm going to say this is one of the greatest teams of all time. And, you know, you can take a look and see if I've gone out on a huge big limb there. No, I really haven't.
Caught a body.
Got it. Pippen.
Oh,
look at that.
R.I.P.
There's a lot of people he made go home crying for basketball.
We don't need
games.
HD for that.